What is the first place you think of when you hear the word home? For some people, it's comfort. For others, it's safety, a place where you can finally rest. But for some, home becomes the very place they long to escape. Saint Dymphna knew that feeling. In the quiet corridors of history, some stories resonate with a power that transcends time. They are not just tales of distant figures, but mirrors reflecting our own deepest struggles and highest aspirations. Long before she became a saint, a beacon of hope for those wrestling with the shadows of the mind, she was simply a young girl trying to protect her peace. A peace that was not merely the absence of noise, but a profound inner stillness, a sanctuary she cultivated within her own heart. It was a quiet strength, a gentle resolve that would soon be tested beyond all imagination. In our own frantic, demanding world, where so many of us fight to preserve our own mental and emotional well-being, her story may be more relevant today than ever before. It speaks to the timeless human need for sanctuary, for courage, and for faith in the face of overwhelming darkness. Our story begins in a land of mist and legend. Dymphna was born in Ireland during the 7th century, a time when the island was a vibrant tapestry of ancient Celtic traditions and the fervent new light of Christianity. This was the land of saints and scholars, a place where small, fiercely independent kingdoms, or tuatha, dotted the landscape. She was born into the ruling class of one such kingdom, likely within the Confederation of Oriel in modern-day Ulster. To the outside world, and for many years to Dymphna herself, her life was blessed. It was a life woven from threads of privilege and promise, seemingly untouched by the harsh realities that governed the lives of many. She was the daughter of a king. Her father, Damon, was a powerful pagan chieftain, a man accustomed to command, whose word was law within his domain. His court would have been a place of raw, earthy power, filled with loyal warriors, the sounds of feasting, and the songs of bards reciting epic tales of heroes and gods. In this world, she lived in comfort, not the sterile comfort of modernity, but the rich, textured comfort of her era. She would have been wrapped in fine wool and linen dyed with precious pigments, her food seasoned with rare spices brought by traders, her world insulated by the high walls of her father's fort. Yet Dymphna was defined by more than her status. From a young age, she was known for her kindness, intelligence, and deep faith. While her father clung to the old gods, Dymphna, guided by her Christian mother and a priest named Garabernus, who served as her tutor, found her soul's home in the teachings of Christ. This faith was not a passive inheritance but a conscious choice, a private wellspring of strength and compassion. She was known to slip away from the boisterous court to tend to the sick or share food with the poor, her compassion a quiet rebellion against the rigid hierarchy of her world. But most importantly, the anchor of her young life, the source of its brightest light. She shared a close bond with her mother. This relationship was the heart of her world, a space of unconditional love and understanding. Her mother was the one who nurtured her faith, who taught her the meaning of grace, and who showed her that true strength was rooted in gentleness. This was a woman admired throughout the kingdom for her beauty and wisdom. Her beauty was said to be legendary, but it was her inner grace, her sharp mind, and her diplomatic counsel that truly earned her the respect of the court and the love of her people. She was the balancing force in the kingdom, a Christian queen who navigated the complexities of a pagan court with poise and integrity. For Dymphna, she was more than a queen. She was a guide, a confidant, and the living embodiment of the faith they secretly shared. With her mother by her side, life felt stable. The days unfolded in a rhythm of lessons, prayer, and quiet joys. The political tensions of her father's kingdom, the clash of old and new beliefs, all of it seemed distant, held at bay by the powerful love that defined her home. Her future seemed predictable. She was a princess. She would likely be promised in a strategic marriage to the son of a neighboring king, a common practice to forge alliances and ensure peace. It was a path laid out by tradition, a destiny she seemed willing to accept, finding freedom within the confines of her duty. Her world felt safe. It was a safety born of innocence, the beautiful, fragile belief that the people you love will always be there, that the ground beneath your feet will always be firm. It was a perfect, sunlit moment in time, a cherished memory of peace that she would cling to in the years to come. But the stability of our world is often an illusion, and the foundations of even the most blessed life can be shattered in an instant. For Dymphna, the storm was gathering, unseen, just beyond the horizon. And then, with the sudden, shocking finality of a lightning strike, tragedy arrived. The death of a beloved queen is a wound upon the heart of a kingdom. When Dymphna's mother, a woman known for her profound piety and gentle spirit, passed from the world, a palpable silence fell over the land. The initial grief was a shared and heavy blanket, a collective mourning for a light that had been extinguished far too soon. For a time, the king's sorrow was a mirror of his people's, deep, solemn, and understandable. He retreated from his court, seeking solace in the quiet halls of his castle, his grief a private, sacred thing. But as the days bled into weeks, and the weeks into months, the nature of that grief began to change. Something inside the king, once a man of strength and reason, began to fray at the edges, to unravel in the darkness left by his wife's absence. His grief, once a quiet river of sorrow, began to swell, becoming a torrential and consuming obsession. He filled the queen's chambers with fresh flowers daily, refusing to let her memory fade, speaking to her as if she were still there, just beyond a veil he could not yet pierce. He commissioned artists not to create new works, but to endlessly replicate his wife's likeness, each portrait a desperate attempt to capture a spirit that had already departed. His advisors, once trusted counselors, found their counsel falling on deaf ears. They spoke of state matters, of the needs of the kingdom, but the king heard only the echo of his own loss. He was no longer just mourning his wife, he was actively refusing her departure, trying to hold on to a ghost with hands that could no longer grasp. And with this obsession, his sorrow became a profound and unsettling confusion. The clear lines between memory and reality began to blur. He would wander the castle grounds, lost in conversations with the past, his mind a labyrinth from which he could not, or would not, escape. The world outside his grief ceased to hold meaning. His duties as a ruler, his responsibilities to his people, even his role as a father, all became secondary to the all-consuming task of preserving what was already gone. The kingdom, once guided by a steady hand, was now adrift, its king lost in a fog of his own making. And eventually, those around him began noticing the disturbing changes. It started with whispers in the hallways, with the concerned glances of courtiers and servants. The king's moods became erratic, swinging from melancholic despair to fits of volatile anger. His once commanding presence was replaced by an unnerving and unpredictable energy. He would issue strange decrees, demanding that the court maintain rituals as if the queen were still alive, punishing those who dared to speak of her in the past tense. A quiet fear began to seep into the very stones of the castle. The man they had known and respected was disappearing, replaced by a stranger ruled by a broken heart and a fractured mind. His advisors, desperate to restore balance to the kingdom and to the king himself, proposed a solution they believed was rooted in reason and tradition. They urged him to remarry, to find a new queen who could help heal his heart and bring stability back to the throne. At first, the king rejected the idea with fury, seeing it as a betrayal of his late wife's memory. But the seed of the idea, once planted, began to grow in the fertile ground of his obsession. If he could not have his wife back, perhaps he could find her echo in another. And so the search began. Desperate to fill the void left behind, he sent messengers across the land and beyond, searching for someone who resembled his late wife. It was no longer a search for a new partner, but a frantic quest for a replacement, a living vessel for a dead woman's memory. The decree was specific, outlining every detail with a chilling precision. He sought someone with the same ethereal beauty, the same startling green eyes, the same cascade of auburn hair. He searched for someone with the same quiet grace, the way she moved through a room like a gentle melody, her presence a calming balm on all who saw her. He searched for the same noble presence, an innate dignity that commanded respect without demanding it. But the search was fruitless. Noble women were presented from far and wide, each beautiful and graceful in her own right. But none could match the idealized image the king held so tightly in his mind. Each rejection only fueled his frustration, deepening his descent into madness. There was no one in the kingdom, no one in the world who could be her. And then, one day, in a moment of terrible clarity, his gaze fell upon his own daughter. He saw her walking through the castle gardens, her form silhouetted against the setting sun, and for a horrifying instant, he did not see his child. He saw his wife, reborn. He saw the same hair, the same eyes, the same gentle posture. In his clouded mind, the distinction between mother and daughter dissolved completely. There was one person who carried the queen's likeness, except it was Dymphna, the daughter he was supposed to love, to cherish, and above all else, to protect. The object of his grief had now become the object of his obsession, and for Dymphna, the world had just become a very dangerous place. Sometimes the people we trust most are fighting battles we cannot see, and sometimes their wounds begin wounding others. Not every danger comes from strangers. Sometimes it comes from brokenness left untreated. Dymphna faced an impossible choice: stay, remain silent, hope things improved, or leave everything behind: her home, her title, her future, the life she had always known. So she fled. Accompanied by a priest and a few trusted companions, she crossed the sea and sought refuge far from Ireland. She arrived in what is now Belgium, and for a brief moment, she found peace. One of the hardest lessons in life is learning that distance is sometimes necessary, not because we stop loving people, but because protecting our soul matters too. Boundaries are not betrayal. Sometimes they are wisdom. Eventually, the king found her. He begged, he demanded, he pressured, but Dymphna refused, not because she hated him, because she knew who she was, and whose she was. She belonged to God first. Fear often asks us to compromise. Courage asks us to remember our identity. Many people think courage means feeling strong. It doesn't. Courage often feels like fear that chooses the right thing anyway. Dymphna wasn't fearless. She was faithful. And there is a difference. For centuries after her martyrdom, the story of Dymphna, the Irish princess who fled to Belgium, was a local legend, a tale whispered in the town of Geel. But history is not a static thing. It breathes, and sometimes, after a long silence, it speaks again. It wasn't until the 13th century, nearly 600 years after her death, that her story began its true journey into the heart of human suffering. Miraculous cures were reported at her tomb. People afflicted with what was then called madness or melancholy found solace and, in some cases, astonishing recovery. Word spread, and soon a church was built in her honor, becoming a destination for pilgrims from across Europe. This was the seed from which Geel's revolutionary approach to mental health care would grow, a system of community and family care inspired by her compassion. And so, centuries later, people began turning to Saint Dymphna in times of emotional suffering. They came to her with the burdens that are often invisible to the outside world. Those struggling with the relentless hum of anxiety, that feeling of a constant, low-grade fever in the soul, where every shadow holds a threat, and the heart races for reasons the mind cannot name. They saw in her flight from Ireland a reflection of their own desperate need to escape the tightening grip of their fears. They came to her in the throes of despair, that profound, hollow ache where hope seems like a distant memory, a language you no longer speak, a darkness so complete it feels like the sun will never rise again. They understood that Dymphna, in her darkest moments facing the loss of her mother, the terrifying derangement of her father, and her own mortality must have known that same chilling emptiness. They came to her with the chaos of mental distress, the fractured thoughts, the confusion, the feeling of being a stranger in your own mind. This is the suffering that isolates, that builds walls between us and the ones we love. In Dymphna's story, they found a patron who understood the terrifying reality of a mind undone by grief and rage, not her own, but her father's. She stood at the epicenter of a psychological storm and did not break. And they came to her with the paralysis of overwhelming fear, the kind that freezes you in place, that whispers of all the terrible things that could happen until you are too afraid to live at all. Dymphna's journey was defined by courage in the face of unimaginable fear. The fear of her father, the fear of the unknown sea, the fear of a foreign land, and ultimately, the fear of death itself. People sought her intercession not because she had easy answers. Her life was not a simple parable with a neat and tidy ending, but because she understood what it meant to live through darkness without surrendering hope. Her story is a testament to the profound strength found not in avoiding suffering, but in facing it with unwavering faith and integrity. She chose her principles over her safety. She chose righteousness over a corrupt peace. She chose light, even when it meant walking toward her own shadow. Her story reminds us that God sees the suffering others cannot see. He sees the silent battles waged in the quiet corners of our hearts. He sees the courage it takes just to get through the day. Dymphna's witness is a powerful affirmation that our hidden pain is not hidden from Him. In a world that often demands we present a facade of strength, her legacy gives us permission to be vulnerable. And that healing often begins with that one courageous act, bringing our pain into the light. Whether that light is found in prayer, in the trust of a friend, in the help of a professional, or in the simple, brave admission to ourselves that we are not okay. Dymphna's story doesn't promise a life without storms, but it offers a lighthouse, a steady, guiding beam that assures us we are not lost in the dark, and that even after the longest night, dawn will come. The lesson of Saint Dymphna is not that life will always feel safe. It is that God remains present even when it doesn't. And sometimes the bravest thing we can do is walk away from what is harming us and walk toward the peace God desires for us. Saint Dymphna, patroness of those who struggle with anxiety, fear, and emotional suffering, pray for us. Pray for those whose hearts are troubled. Pray for those seeking peace. And remind us that God's love is stronger than our fears. Amen.